think exists. Does that make sense? We live in a community of human beings.
But what means in the past and the future? You are thinking about this system, or in the past and in the future?
Are you?
Understood.
You didn't understand?
Yeah, no.
What? You understand society?
Yes.
So society, he uses the word historical society to indicate the society that has progressed from the past to the future, which is the way that we live, isn't it? So he calls it historical society. And the other, he uses the word criticism. He talks about criticizing the rules of society. He doesn't mean kind of negative criticism. He just means being able to comment, make critical comments on. Those are the two phrases. I think it's about 15 minutes, is that right? Oh, sorry. Start at the beginning.
Historical society.
Historical.
In Buddhism, we have the theory of living historical society or living family. And people who want to study Buddhism need live a historical society and family life. This is the theory in Buddhism in ancient India. And this tradition have been continued today. So we must study the theory of relation between Buddhists and living historical society or living family life. We Buddhists believe in that Buddhism is the truth. But every historical society has its own rule. And every family has its own
rules.
And rule of historical society or rule of human family has not always truth as their rule. Historical societies have many wrong rules, and every family has also long rule in it.
Wrong rules.
So, people who want to study Buddhism think the rule of historical society, whether it is right or wrong, or they must think whether each rule of each family is right or wrong. So, Gautama Buddha recommended us at the beginning of study in Buddhism to leave historical societies or family life. Usually, this recommendation of Gautama Buddha are interpreted as the negation of the real society life or real family life. But I think the recommendation of Gautama Buddha insists that when we want to study the truth, we must leave the wrong rule of historical society or wrong rule of family life. So, his recommendation is not the negation of social life or family life, but the method to study the Buddhist truth. So, in the modern age, we must think about this problem. We are living in our historical society, and we are living our family life. Gautama Buddha did not deny historical social life nor family life, but at the process to study Buddhism, we need to left social life or family life, because if we stay in historical society life or family life, we cannot criticize the rule of historical society or wrong rule family life. So, in this problem, the form is not important. Even though we are living in historical social life or in family life, if we can transcend to the wrong rule of historical social life or wrong rule of family life, we can study Buddhism in historical social life or in family life. So, most important matter is the standpoint to be able to criticize the historical rule of society or the rule of family life. This is not so easy for us. But if we can criticize the wrong rule of historical society or family life, we can study Buddhism in usual social life or in our family life. This is my opinion, and this opinion have come from my Buddhist life for 40 years.
Do you understand what he said?
No.
You don't?
The votes, yes.
What to say? Such a long discussion.
Sorry?
It was too long, I think.
No, you're impatient, so I had to
So-
listen to him talk like that for 30 years.
I don't mean that he's talking slowly, but you always repeat, no?
That's right.
Okay.
Always repeating. Again and again and again.
Okay. It's normal.
Normal.
Did,
Znaczy straca ta pointa.
did he say then after how to transcend? Or
No, there's questions and answers, but they're a bit not so a good recording of the, so you can't hear. Yeah, of course, practice doesn't.
I suppose.
So, what's your understanding of living family life if it doesn't mean like going to some community, or some monastery, whatever?
It's what he said. To transcend the rules of your family life or the rules of the society in which we live, to transcend them. That means to notice when they're not helpful, when they're not allowing us to follow the Buddhist truth.
How can you explain transcend?
Transcend means,
The word is used a lot,
yes,
but in this case,
Get over.
yeah. Can you do you have similar word in Czech? Sorry.
no.
Překročit.
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 Transcend seems like
Psychology.
very
Spiritual.
spiritual.
Oh yeah.
That
I
So
see
this
music.
is
Transcend.
Transcend means
No.
překročit.
Transmiss but you should transcend. But I didn't catch the meaning also before, also now. But what means transcend? Maybe I don't understand the word properly.
Not to let it worry you.
Or ignore the nonsense rules. Maybe.
Odnetsen.
No. Transcend is not ignore, no?
No.
He said is ignore.
Not ignore, no.
Yeah, it's something you take it and then you put it somewhere else.
No.
Transcend.
Or transform. Does this mean
Transcend,
transform?
I'm surprised that people can't understand. There's a word which is
Yeah,
similar.
they překročit, like cross the river. They
Yeah.
cross something. Or
What does it mean in this?
Could you give us
When you
practical
transcend
examples?
this, you
You want to know how
subject,
to do it.
It's object, no? It's object, the rule is object, and you, subject, you
Yeah.
transcend.
Yeah.
Means you do something with the rules. But what do you do?
Transcendencia je prekračovanie hraníc medzi dvoma oblastiami z toho sveta do tamtoho, alebo ono.
Sveta.
Nadmyselnosť. Nie, to znamená, že
Maybe-
si nedávaš...
If you could give us like practical example, what does it mean? Like practical example from your life? Or...
I'll give you a practical example for his life.
Okay.
He was married with 2 daughters. Carry on.
Yeah, no.
No.
Nishijima was married with 2 daughters, but he went to live in our dojo. And he compromised the situation by going home at the weekend, but in the week he lived like a monk in the dojo. So he was married, but he was a monk. So he did both. So he transcended the normal situation in a family, which is you live in a family.
Niečo s tým urobíš. Ako... Necháš sa na to.
Do you know how
Change
it's
the
life?
Oh, it's,
Change some quality.
no, the rule is still there. Society has its rules, right? So you don't change the rules, but you do something.
How you transcend? Okay, Nishijima
Really?
transcended,
We have
like
to go
you
back
said,
years
yes.
and years now. Go on.
No, it's not.
You've been practicing zazen for how many years?
Almost 30.
And you don't know how to transcend something?
Koľko razy si rozvedel ten
For me,
Yeah.
I can catch the meaning exactly what it's the word
So is
means.
the problem with the word,
The
or is the
problem-
problem with doing it?
No, it's problem with the word.
Okay. Do you know how to do it?
Sorry, I also don't understand the word, so don't be angry.
Okay.
I don't think that it's clear.
Nie, proste on transcendentne myslí, ako iný svet je vlastne ten buddhistický svet a z toho normálneho sveta do rodiny, do toho druhého sveta, ktorý je vlastne akože ten spirituálny alebo buddhistický, si myslím.
Then you transcend the rules from Buddhism to your own family life.
A the opposite.
No, that's transfer. You're talking about transfer.
Okay,
So maybe I have an example. It's not Buddhist, but I grew up vaguely Christian, and at my school I was told, don't steal, you'll go to hell. Don't hurt people, you'll go to hell. Now, when I'm older, I think, well, yeah, I don't want to steal and I don't want to hurt, but I don't believe that's because I'm going to go to hell. I still recognise there's some truth there that I can kind of fit into my life without believing in the hell or the heaven anymore. And so in that way, maybe this is what it means. I kind of
Yes, that's what it
transcended
means.
the kind of Christian element of it to find a truth that I can fit into the
That's
rest
what
of
it
my
means.
life.
Or let's say you've left your family to come here. So inside you, there's some kind of worry that I should be at home. My partner is expecting me to be at home, or he's not completely happy. But I'm here and I'm doing it. So you've transcended that situation.
So how Nishijima is, if you know Nishijima wife and daughter,
Yeah.
how they feel about this arrangement, and to which level they agree to this, and to which level it was like given them without much choice.
I've no idea.
You never talked with them?
Ako to brali
Daddy's at work.
But you mentioned some stories about
work, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry?
about him and his
So
Yes.
very little conversation.
Yes.
I'm puzzled with this. I mean, do you know them personally? Did you know them personally? Like,
Yes, I knew them. Yeah, his daughter and one of his daughters and his wife. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes they were very upset with him. After he died, his daughter didn't want any of his Buddhist students to be at his funeral
oh,
because she had a resentment that he spent his time doing Buddhism instead of being with the family.
So this daughter did not understand that her father had a job. That's how I understand.
That's
He
fine.
was just, he was at work basically all week. Unable to visit the
Well,
family on the
well,
weekends.
You know, we create stories, don't we? I'm telling you about a man who died 15 years ago, who you never met. So your idea of how it might have been
This is just an idea, of course I don't know.
Yeah.
My interpretation of that situation.
Now, how about you, yourself? How about you, Stepan? You're here.
that I'm thinking about. Yeah.
Yeah, well, look at yourself and try and find what transcending family life might be.
I would never use the word transcendence in any context. Maybe except for like when we start speaking about religion or philosophy.
Okay, find a way to cope with, or find a way to compromise your life.
Or adapt.
Do it every
Can we use
day.
adapt?
Adapt.
I do it every day.
Honestly,
No choice.
I really would like to have chance in this life to study Buddha way. But yes, I see conflicts with my family life, and I still don't have perfect solution.
Yeah, so if you have a conflict, one way is to leave leave the situation in a conflicting way, but to transcend is different from that.
How about reconcile?
Reconcile, yeah.
Can I say, because I don't understand the transcend, okay, it's my problem. But I can tell you about my life and my feeling.
Yeah.
I think I have 2 families.
Yeah.
With children with 2 wives.
Yeah.
And other kind of relationship, it was more than few months. And I'm feeling I never have transcended nothing from that relationship or from the children relationship and family to my Buddhist life, or in the opposite.
Okay, well you should.
Then I don't know
now.
But I don't know how to do, or what if they are not interested in. So you always put something there they don't want to. So I stopped to do.
Okay.
I stopped to do anything. But I think I do some kind of Buddha way, or because they want to something other from me. They don't look for me as I'm Buddha or I'm. Okay, then I stopped. I don't know if I transcend something or not, but I stopped to try.
Stop trying. Yeah, that's transcending. Yeah. Leaving it.
Yeah.
Leaving things as they are.
Last weekend on Easter, I was so nervous from the children. I haven't put there nothing from the teaching of Buddha and you or Nishijima. It was complete fail of my own So I felt it's tragic.
Well, there's still time to learn.
Yeah, okay. But I don't know about the transcend.
Okay.
I was practicing Buddha way or
Yeah.
whatever for a long time, even when I had very small children.
Yeah.
And I went to the monastery for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And I would say I regret it very much. I think I did one of the most stupid things in my life. Trying to give this a priority at the time when they were small. So I'll never do it again. And that was because of the pressure of Sangha and things like this.
Things like this. He didn't tell you to go to a monastery. He never told me to do anything. But he explained that we can transcend the rules of society which prevent us from studying the truth. And we can transcend the rules of the family that prevent us from following the truth. It doesn't mean to throw them away. It means to see that they are preventing us from or not making it easy for us to follow the truth, and we can find an answer. Not an extreme answer, but a balanced answer. All that means to transcend. So to leave, but not to go away.
I felt as she's a woman, has children, and she wants to take care of the children, and she needs me, then I help her somehow. I always run away somehow to follow the Buddha way. So
the Buddha way is not somewhere else.
Yes, but this is schizophrenic state because you practice, okay, in your daily life, okay, of course I know, but in some time you get lost. It's natural you get lost, and in children, in everyday doing, you lost the clear view, because I'm doing so lot. So quickly, the needs of children, something it's very quickly you should answer and make some action. So fast, and you got lost even. Then after some time, you need the motivation to rest. Then you go to retreat.
Well, that's coming back to what I said in my first talk. Some people use retreats as an escape from society. Like a health cure or to get rid of stress. That's how some people do it. But that's not how he did it, and that's not how I do it.
But manage it with small children and manage it in this case situation is not so easy.
Of course it's not easy.
So you should have experience about this.
Yeah.
That's my feeling.
Are you talking about yourself and small children?
Yes.
Okay. I understand what Patya's saying. Sometimes we get so enthusiastic about something, especially Buddhist teachings, and we think that we have to go and be somewhere special and do something special, and so we do it, and then it's not a balanced way. Because if you have children, but also you want to study, how do you do that? Well, you have to find your way. Nobody can tell you, and you made a mistake. We all make mistakes like that with our lives.
Maybe it wouldn't be a mistake for somebody else, but it was for me.
Yeah.
And I believe I was too young, immature, or whatever, too much under pressure.
Yeah, we're all.
And I grew of that community, and I followed, the way that I went to these retreats, and this one, for example, the one in France, was much too long to leave small children behind.
Cross sector, no?
How long was it?
It was for 5 weeks.
5 weeks, yeah, a long time. Yeah.
And my children were like 3 and 4. And it wasn't just the only time.
Well, the reason Nishijima Roshi in his teachings never had long sessions is just for this fact. We would go on Thursday evening and come back Sunday afternoon. So we can fit it in with our family and fit it in with our life. So, you have to go to L'Engendonnier or wherever for 5 weeks and become a monk or whatever. To me, personally, is extreme. I prefer something more integrated, something I can manage with my life.
Because otherwise it's a kind of schizophrenia.
It's a what?
Schizophrenia. Because you don't know where to focus. Or family, or that one, and after you get crazy because you
right.
not catch anyone.
This is why I say the tradition of having a group, and you go to the group and you practice, and inside the group you do certain sacred things and so on, and then you come out, go back to a different life. So that's schizophrenic too. So what I've been saying is, get rid of it. Try to find Buddhist rituals in cleaning your teeth, washing your face, cooking your food. Try to find a way to follow while you're in your family, if you're in your family. Trying to find a way to learn about the Buddhist truth without going to live in a hut in the mountains. You can go to live in a hut in the mountains, but it's not easy. So to find a way to do it and not do it, to be in and not be in, is to transcend. I thought everybody understood transcend. It's something we...
One of the sessions that I went to in Poland, there is a family that belongs to our Sangha, and the husband and the wife, they are both practitioners.
Yeah.
And they have small children, and the son was at that time about 7 years old or 8 years old. And I don't remember whether the daughter or a next son was much smaller.
Yeah.
So they would take turns. So, for example, he would sit like the morning block, and she would sit the evening.
Yeah.
And the most funny thing was the son, because the son was interested in this thing, and he said like 3 days straight everything, and everybody was like looking at him really surprised that this 7-year-old guy was able to sit. Maybe he said like a day and a half or something like that. And I don't even think that they were thinking about transcendence. They were just thinking of,
you don't think about
management of family life.
Yes, management, You don't think about transcend and try to do transcend. You don't try to transcend, but transcend is a description of what happens.
And it was very funny because outside of the building like this, we were sitting in the zendo, and this wife was walking with her child with a stroller, So it's strange hippie Sangha.
I would call it combined rather than transcend.
Okay, you can call it combined. So this is one big problem in all of these teachings. Words. So find a word, hear a word like transcend. Find something that sounds in your own experience that seems to be, maybe that's what it means. And then you can use any word you like to talk about your own experience. Call it combine, call it negotiate, call it compromise, call it anything. But the word transcend is often used in Dogen's writings to mean what you might want to call combine, what somebody else might want to call negotiate.
It sounds very esoteric, like
We know this word from esoteric or somewhere this kind of discussion.
This is my teacher.
Prajna.
This is my teacher in 1985. Right? I listened to his teachings. Do I ever use the word transcend? No. Why do you think that is? Because I understood what he meant, and I used different words. So that's the process of learning from a teacher and then explaining things in your own way. You find what those words, those teachings really mean in experience. Then you can explain your own experience in your own words. They may not be the words that other people understand, in which case you have a problem. Well, we had a problem with him because he speaks very slowly. Sometimes he used strange words. Historical society. I spent years understanding what he was talking about. Years. But that's what he sounds like. So now you know.
How Dogen use the word transcend in which sense or which?
We've just been talking about the meaning of transcend.
Dogen. I mean, how you use.
Well, he didn't use the word transcend. He used the kanji,
So.
the character. He didn't speak in English or Sloven. So already we've got another. So somebody looked at the character and said, what does that mean? And Chinese and Japanese concepts are, to us, very vague. That's why they can write beautiful poetry. Haiku poetry is almost borderless. It's like flowing language because the concepts are vague. So how to make that vague teaching into something clear and concrete is what my life has been about.
I would like to share one thing. I said I see conflict between studying and my family life. That's true. But also, to be fair, first, the family life allowed me to study Buddha way, because before I had my wife, I was too much, in house to do anything like systematically. So I started when I got my family and starting to see things a little normally.
Yeah, nothing teaches us more than the family.
And somehow it goes, it somehow works. Yeah, I have my conflict because I have many conflicts in my head. So of course I create conflict. But what really helped me when I start practicing Zazen, to start noticing, and it's not like one, but start noticing that things are changing. With my wife is changing. With my children, it's obvious. With children, it's obvious. But with my wife and bigger family, before I had this fixed idea that things are static, but they are not. And actually, it's a huge change. And also, else, it is this little space for action, because if you see that things are moving and there is some space for something to grow, or I don't know. Well, that's all I have to say.
Okay. Nice. For years, when I came back from Japan, the first 10 years in England, I was giving talks on the Shobo Genzo. And after 10 years, I realized people I was talking to, they want to understand it immediately. They don't go away and read it again. They just want to hear me say something they can understand. And also they think that it was written in English. I was like people, Christians believe the Bible was written in Latin. English, whatever. So I started 10 years ago with our group in Scotland, Shobogenzo workshop, to go through, like Okamura Sensei does, to go through, but I can't do like he does, go through each Japanese character one by one, and you can say this Japanese character means transcend, compromise, blah, blah, blah. This next Japanese character means outside, beyond, different from. And then we have worksheets. So here's the characters here, and people write. And then I say, okay, now make your own translation. And of course they realize, wow, you know, I can make it mean whatever I want to. But what they really realize is, I see. So Dogen wrote in those characters. And what he's saying is not so fixed to our European minds. So they find it very useful. So I can show you a worksheet, probably, if I can open this.
You prepare it before the worksheet?
Yeah.
Entrance test.
How long?
Actually Chinese probably.
Pardon?
For one workshop, how long take it to prepare?
Oh, months. I've been doing it once every month for 6 months now. 8
Once
months.
every month?
Yeah. On Zoom,
On Zoom, yeah, okay.
because the group is in London.
Can we Zoom also?
No. Desktop. Shobogenzo. Zladiť. We're doing one chapter at the moment. So, for instance, there's a worksheet, okay? So the Japanese write from top to bottom, right to left. So beside each of the characters is an English way to pronounce it. So it says Yakusan Kodo Daishi Za Sui Aruso To Gotsu Gotsu Chi Shiryo Nani. Right? And then we go through each character. Yaku means medicine or some herb that you can take. San means mountain or hill. Ko means I've forgotten. So we go through each one. And then everybody has their meanings written here. And then I say, okay, now you do your translation.
Is this a sentence or
Pardon?
several sentences? Is this several sentences? Or is it one sentence? Or?
That's one sentence.
One sentence?
Yeah, that's one sentence.
Mhm.
That's the first sentence in Zazenshin chapter. Yeah. And then next week we do the next sentence.
Forever,
Yeah. Well, I mean, when people are fed up, I'll stop.
So, Mike, are you still considering opening such a group for chicken?
Yes, I'll do it, yes. Yeah, anyway. That is a way so that people can see, how the teachings come from, well, in my case, this funny little man that I met in 1977, who I couldn't understand his English, to me speaking now. And you can't understand my English either. So it's it can only, you can't teach things, it's not like teaching mathematics, sorry about that, or teaching history. What I'm teaching is experience. And that experience is what the words point to. So Dogen wrote all these words, all these characters that point to experience. Somebody who's having the same experience, i.e. practicing balance, then puts that experience into their words. And then they can look at his words and say, oh yeah. So that's the way he said it. I'm going to say it this way. And so it goes on. And this is called lineage. This is what the lineage is. It's people communicating their real experience through language, of course, and through shared experience, which is zazen. So zazen is the key, if you like.
So yesterday you said something, I think you were quoting Dogen, you said flowers in the sky.
Yeah.
And I quite like this. I think you were saying it almost dismissively, right? Like flowers in the sky and embroidery. But I think there's something in it that, look, there's your expression of it, there's your teacher's expression of it, there's Dogen's expression of it.
Yeah.
And by kind of trying to experience or learn from all of the different teachers or look at all the different flowers, you can see the thread through it which is common. It's very hard to just learn from one teacher, I think, and find out what it is, because you have a lot of other expressions and separating that becomes very difficult. I think you were talking about kind of Japanese culture and trying to separate the way from Japanese culture, and that's very hard for me to do. I don't have any experience of Japanese culture, but kind of if I listen or read Dogen, I listen to Nishijima, and I listen to you, I find that helpful because I can then see, okay, what is common here?
Yeah.
So I like the flowers in the sky. I like looking at all of them.
Yeah. And in Dogen writes a chapter on flowers in the sky, in which in one part he says, it's flowers in the sky, it's embroidery on reality. But he says, don't dismiss flowers in the sky, they're real. So he says conflicting things all the way through his writings. He says conflicting things.
What's the name of the? What is the name of the chapter?
Kuge. Ku is the same as emptiness. Ge is flowers. So you could say flowers of emptiness. But ku normally in Japanese means sky. So we translate it as flowers in the sky. And it's a chapter about the value of abstract knowledge.
Value.
The value means the advantages and the disadvantages.
Mike, I have a question about loneliness in relation to this living of the family life.
Yeah.
You said that your current life you experience some loneliness. And
Sorry.
you said that in your current life,
Yeah.
you experience some loneliness.
Yeah, I'm lonely. Yeah.
And this is one of the very prominent question for me, because in this family life, I am not lonely.
Yeah.
And sometimes the severity of the life I compensate by being close to my children, being close to my wife on many levels, and this makes the hard life possible. And there seems to be hidden some hard question, because I don't know, does it mean to this leaving of family? Does it mean to be lonely? Does it mean to give up on this support to cope with this hard life?
Well, life is hard
How
outside and inside.
Yes, but if you are not lonely, it's one way how I compensate, right? If I'm with my family, it's for me easier to bear this hard life. If I'm tired or bad mood or angry, I don't go sometimes to solve the conflict.
Yeah.
I'm tired. I just sit with my wife and I don't know.
I'm alone. Actually, you're alone. Sometimes I feel lonely, but sometimes being alone is okay. I'm sure for you, sometimes being with your family is okay. Sometimes maybe you want to get away.
Yes.
So that's the way it is. If you have a relationship, you wish you had some freedom. If you don't have a relationship, you wish you had a relationship. And that's the way it is.
Okay.
Either way is terrible.
Yeah, well, we can make what we want of life. Pardon? So, but through the years, his English improved a lot, and he speeded up. But in the early days, it was I learned to be patient, and I had sometimes no idea what he was talking about. So I went to see him every week and at weekends, and I just would ask him, well, what do you mean? And then he'd say something else, and I'd say, but I don't understand that, so can you tell me again? And he'd tell me again and again and again and again and again.
Why you choose this talk about living family life or living history?
Oh, well...
Why? What's your intention?
I don't have any intention. Ralph, you know Ralph?
Yeah.
I have a big box of tapes, recording tapes of Nishijima Roshi's talks from 1980 through to 2000. Big box of tapes. And Ralph has a machine. You can put the tape in here and it makes it into MP3 audio file. So he's been doing that, and he said sometimes he's listening, he's working and he's kind of listening. And so he sent me 3 short parts from what he's doing and said, oh, these are really interesting. So I had them on my computer. So before I came here, I thought, oh, maybe people would like to hear his voice. So that's it.
For me, it was for the first time hearing his voice. And was he then after developing or putting some examples how he let's say transcended the rules of historical society or no?
In words, no.
In words,
but
no.
in his life, I mean, I lived with him. Saw him a few times a week. Sat with him every week. So in his life, example, I remember once he had an office where he did his Shobogenzo work, like a room with a computer and so on, and telephone. And I used to go to visit him every Wednesday morning. I cut my work and spent Wednesday morning talking with him in his office. And he had telephone call, and somebody was talking to him on the phone, and he's in Japanese. And he put down the phone, and turned to me, and he said, "They don't realise I'm not in their world." Because he'd left their world, the world of business.
I got it.
Can I ask you a different question? Maybe there is a Heiji, a Sotoshu, and so on.
Yeah.
How they teach or how they explain Dogen's writings? Is it different than Nishijima or because this is some lineage of explanation of teaching, but there are also, I suppose, many other kind of Japanese teachings, maybe different than the Nishijima. If you have some experience or I don't know.
Well, when I met him in 1977, his master, Renpo Niwa, who became head of the Soto school, was not head of the Soto school. He was just living in the temple. And he became head of the Soto school, but in Eiheiji they didn't study the Shobogenzo. They chanted parts of it, but they didn't study the meaning. But they didn't want to invite Nishijima because he was like kind of strange outside guy, had foreign students. He wasn't part of the group. The Eiheiji group was very hierarchical, the chief priests and then the assistant and then just like some Zen groups are these days. You can't talk to the top, you have to talk to these people. Yeah? So that's Eiheiji. But Niwa Renpo liked my teacher because my teacher practiced Zazen and taught the Shobogenzo. So when Niwa Renpo became head of the Soto of Eiheiji, he invited Nishijima to go and talk about Shobogenzo once a month. But nobody there was studying the Shobogenzo or talking about the Shobogenzo.
It's very strange that because monasteries.
Have they started? When he started to go there?
1989 maybe.
Yeah, but if the monks have started, if he was really going there, they were ignoring him, or.
Yeah, well, some were going, but the situation now is different because of people like Shohaku Okumura, Issho Fujita. These were young monks who were sent to the US, and they started to try to teach foreigners, Americans.
Shokumura is the teacher of Suzanne.
Yeah.
Okay.
There were three. I've forgotten the third one, I don't know. But anyway, these two, Shohaku Okumura and Issho Fujita, found how they could teach foreigners. And in teaching foreigners, they taught themselves. They are now, in 60, 70 years old. They're back in Japan. And the Soto Shu has realized that these people understand Dogen. So they become important. For instance, Isho Fujita became head of the international division of the Sotoshu because the Eiheiji people realized, these people understand. So things are changing slowly. But in my time, there was nobody in Eiheiji who studied Shobogenzo. And my teacher was maybe the only person who really, really studied the Shobogenzo completely in the whole of Japan. There were people here and there. Kodo Sawaki was already dead. So on.
It's strange that the monastery Heiji's
Yeah, that's
grow
why.
up by Dogen, but nobody studied Dogen.
That's why Shunryu Suzuki said to his students, "Don't go to America." Deshimaru said to his students, "Don't go to Japan." Sorry. So these two teachers, one in Europe and one in the States, said, "Don't go back to Japan. You can't find what you're looking for there." But they didn't listen, and they went back. And now, in the Deshimaru group, the older Stefan Thibault and the other older, they went to Japan and they got certification, and then they came back, and now they invited the Sotoshu, and there's a Sotoshu representative who lives in Paris, and so, Japan is gradually coming into Europe in that way. So things are changing. But the reason Deshimaru and Shunryu Suzuki said don't go back to Japan was because they meant there's no Buddhism in Japan. The Buddhism for them was the Shobogenzo, the Dogen's teaching. But to most people, Japan, incense, robes. Thank you. So thank you for taking part in the talks.